Good evening, everybody, and welcome. So my name's Jane Greer. I run Create Ceremonies. I'm a celebrant, which means, just in case you don't know, that I create and conduct unique wedding ceremonies, renewals, naming ceremonies, that kind of thing. Interesting background noise going on at the moment. Hopefully you're not getting that as well as I am. So tonight, I am hosting the fourth of my live chats with members of my fellow suppliers who work in the wedding industry. I used to work backstage. I loved being a stage manager. And one of the things I really liked more than anything else was knowing how things work behind the scenes. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a bit of a chat with my friends and fellow suppliers that do all kinds of amazing things and create magic in all kinds of different ways to make wedding ceremonies absolutely fantastic, and the days that their couples really dream of. So this is my fourth one. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to be able to have invited Lottie, and she's accepted, thankfully. So Lottie Dixon from the Bloom Room, who's over on that side. No, she's that side.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Lottie. So how are you doing? This is all a bit unusual, isn't it?
It is all a bit weird, because normally I do things like this in the shop, but I'm in my dining room. Which is a bit odd, but welcome to my home.
Thank you.
Wallpaper.
Thank you very much. If we get stuck for things to talk about, we'll just go on a tour of the house, shall we?
Yeah, fine, no problem.
Brilliant. You've got the most amazing wallpaper I've ever seen, I have to say.
Thank you.
So, obviously, what the idea behind these chats is that I find out a bit more about what happens behind the scenes. So, obviously, the couples know what happens when they come and meet you, or what happens on the day, what's already there, but actually what goes into it is a whole kind of different kettle of fish thing, I think. So I'm hopeless with flowers. You know, I can just about put them in a vase. If they come in some kind of arrangement, I can get them out of that and put them in a vase. But in terms of arranging things or doing something creative with them, I don't know where to start. So we're going to do a bit of investigating into that, hopefully by the end of it, without having a live demonstration or anything like that. Hopefully I'll know a bit more about what I need to be doing. But I wondered if we could start off maybe with just a bit of background on you and how you got into floristry, really.
So I have a similar background to you. As you know, I used to work in theatres. I also have stage management background. I did a lot of lighting, lots of technical things, set construction, props. Basically, if somebody wanted it making and could provide a drawing and a couple of measurements, I could make it happen. And I worked in theatres quite happily, and then the Arts Council funding just completely dried up in a puff of smoke, and theatre jobs were so hard to come by that I moved home. And I just went, you know what, I'll just get a job and I'll do something and we'll see what happens. Luckily, I started working in a wedding venue in the kitchens, nothing to do with flowers, and I loved it there, absolutely loved it. And I got my first taste of what weddings were like. And I got to see the process from a couple's point of view when they were talking to their venue and all of that sort of magic that happens that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
A couple of years of doing that, I thought, you know what, it's time to move on, do something different, didn't really know what to do, and sort of fell into floristry. Which I love. I love that I've come about it in a really weird way. But then I've also found out that my great grandma was a florist in the Welsh Valleys in the 1920s.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and my nana used to work at floristry wholesalers up in Manchester. So somewhere it's randomly in my blood. So maybe I would have always ended up here eventually. But yeah, I've owned my own shop for the last 4.5 years, and I love it.
So 4.5 years since you opened your own shop, was that right?
Yeah.
So I got slightly distracted by Hannah's lovely comments that we're so glad you did. Welcome, Hannah. It's great if people want to comment, if people want to ask questions. Absolutely lovely to see you getting involved. It's great to see some people are watching us now. I know a lot more people catch up on it in their own time. I know at various points people have just listened to us put this on in the background, and that's absolutely fine. But please, those people that are watching live, feel free to comment, feel free to ask questions. And I'll make sure Lottie answers them, because I'm sure I won't be able to. But of course, if you want to know anything about celebrancy or having a celebrant to create and conduct your wedding ceremony, then ask me. Lottie won't answer that. You never know, though. You probably could. So
No. Leave it to the expert. Talk to you.
Well, I like to think so. Anyway, right. So, what is the process for somebody wanting to select their flowers, wanting to choose flowers for the day? How does that actually happen?
Okay, so in normal non-coronavirus terms,
yeah,
generally people send me an email or a Facebook message or pick up the phone and go, "We're getting married. Do you have this date available? Can we come and talk to you?" Well, yeah, sure. Let's select a time that suits us both. Come in, have a chat, show me some pictures, and we take it from there. If you've got a Pinterest board, show it me. If you don't, I really don't mind. I don't like the things, but there we go. And we, I talk, I find out about you, I find out about your other half, and find out what's important about your day, because no two couples are the same. Why should your flowers be? So one of the things I'm asked quite a lot, do you have a wedding package? No. And you and your other half should have a day that's right for you. It shouldn't be a carbon copy of somebody else's. So I create a list when you come in and talk to me, I get your contact details, and we take it from there. And if you want a mood board that's really intricate and really like, these are the flowers you'll be having, I'll do that. If you go, you know what, we trust you, just make it pretty, I can do that. And it's entirely couple led. So as much interaction as you want from me is what you need to tell me. If you want me to be emailing you once a week with a nothing new this week, then I'm happy to do that. If you want to leave it until a month before your wedding and then finally get in touch and go, right, had to change a plan. I mean, my partner's still the same, but everything else has changed. Then that's totally cool, and I'm happy to do that.
That's you hope stays the same.
Well, I have had a bride come in 3 weeks before the wedding and go, "Groom's done the unthinkable," and in my head I was going, "Oh my God, what is it? What's happened? What's he possibly done?" It's all right. He just bought the wrong colour suit. So where she planned for this beautiful sort of deep burgundy and peach and blush wedding theme, it would have looked awful against the colour of his suit. So we swapped and we went to pale mauves and lilacs and pale blues, and it was so beautiful and so perfect. But it was completely different to what we'd originally discussed, and that's fine.
I've just seen that we've got Kalita has joined us this evening, which is great. Hi, Kalita. I think we both know her from different places, don't we?
We do.
It's always exciting when you suddenly find there are links that link you up people that you didn't know that you both knew, which is always good fun. So but things that from my experience, the first thing people tend to go for is the venue. So that tends to be the major focus, isn't it? Kind of go, this is where I want to go. Seems to be the first port of call. Then I think photographer.
Yeah.
Quite often they completely forget about a celebrant, or they don't know about a celebrant at all, and so they book the registrar, or else they kind of go, "Oh, that's it. That's the only option." But we'll glide over that one slightly for now. At what point in the pecking order do you think the flowers come in?
So I quite like it if we're dealing with a bride and groom, if the bride has got her dress. Having your dress, having an idea about what you want your bridesmaid, your groomsmaid, whoever's in your wedding party to be wearing, it's really helpful, because that sort of zones you into having a colour scheme and a proper visual idea as to how you want your day to look. It really helps, because if you're talking about wanting this over-the-top, really extravagant, absolutely huge bouquet, and you're wearing the thinnest, most Grecian draped dress, I'm going to maybe steer you towards something that will look a bit better. It's your day and it should look how you want. But I want you to look back at your wedding photos in 20, 30, 40 years' time and go, you know what? I look amazing. The flowers look amazing. Didn't we have an amazing day? Not, oh my God, why did I pick that? Why did I choose to do that when I should have done actually something different? So I quite like it to have a couple of things sorted before you come and see me.
And we've got Julie from Dress to Impress is here with us tonight as well. I just thought I'd pop her up. Hi, Julie. It's fine. And Hannah is just making a contribution there as well. So the most important thing, except flowers and ceremony, of course. I'm not quite sure what's the most important thing. Is that the venue? Because we were talking about venue. Because obviously, as far as we're concerned, ceremony and flowers are the most important thing.
Naturally.
So do you think there seems to be, in my mind, an awful lot more theming of the whole day than there ever used to be? So I got married 25 years ago. And I'm sure that theming wasn't a thing then as it is now, or is that just that I wasn't involved in the wedding industry? What do you think?
I think there's definitely people are more likely to grab a theme and run with it. So when I started 4 years ago, you'd get a colour scheme or you'd get we quite like whatever. But now, I've done Gothic ones, I've done Alice in Wonderland, I've had to put hints of Doctor Who into things, steampunk, I've done a bit of...
Goes without saying, steampunk.
Basically, if somebody wants something and they want it that much, I'll make it happen. But I definitely have a dress, of course. A dress.
Indeed. And it is an interesting one, the dress, because it does influence so much, doesn't it? Yeah. The style of the day. And it's such a big part in there. So Joy is saying wise words. My goodness me, there we go. And yes, I think, Annabelle, we've got a secret Pinterest lover by the look of it, or maybe a hater. I don't know which way she feels about it. So you were saying
she knows my feelings on Pinterest, and that's why she said it.
Now it's interesting talking to Julia last a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying, so as a venue designer, so a venue dresser, that she absolutely loves Pinterest, that she finds it's a really helpful tool. You were saying not so much, that it doesn't work necessarily in the same way for you.
So I have a love-hate relationship with Pinterest. It's great for initial ideas. It's not so great for when you're trying to make decisions, because with Pinterest, you don't have a season, you don't have prices on there, you don't know which hemisphere it's happened in. So where it might say a beautiful spring wedding, if it's happened in New Zealand, it's going to have completely different flowers to what we can get in spring up here. And I think it's kind of really difficult if people see the images and they go, oh my God, this is what we've got to have. I've got to have all of this to kind of rein it in with your venue and with your budget and sort of have a realistic idea of what can actually be achieved. So I think although it's useful, and I love it when people go, and this was my Pinterest board when we first got engaged, and this is my Pinterest board now, and you can see how much it's changed as sort of the wedding planning has evolved, and actually they've realised that they don't need 17 bridesmaids in 15 shades of pink and 2 in blue, that sort of thing, where you can kind of see the process of like decisions being made. It's good. But in terms of like, I want this exact bouquet, it's really difficult.
I think Julie probably agrees with you. It must be a really difficult one, because you've got the major thing you haven't got on Pinterest is any idea of budget.
No.
And when you look at venue dressing, or when you look at flowers, they can cost a fortune.
And of course, something that's going to cost £5,000 is going to look incredible in photos versus, okay, our budget's about 600-700. What can we do with it? And to take Pinterest and to go, right, let's forget everything you've seen and let's come up with a plan that's right for you, is sometimes more helpful than no, I want exactly what's in this photo.
Yeah, it's always interesting which way round to start, isn't it? Is it better stroke easier stroke less chat? I don't know. Do you prefer if people come in kind of going, actually got no idea what I really want, or this is exactly what I want, which I suppose they're both challenging in their own way?
They are both challenging in their own way. So if you've got no idea what you want, then it's more of a collaboration to find out what you do want and then to create it. If you know exactly what you want, then the pressure's more on me to recreate it and to know that the picture that you've got in your mind is what you want and what you want to carry and stand in your photos is what I create at the end of the day. And if you think that sometimes people are booking their wedding 2 years in advance, 18 months in advance, and to keep on top of how your thoughts are changing and how, oh, I've seen this picture and I really like it, can I have this instead of that? And making sure that everything's updated and everything's in line. It's not the easiest when people are very, very set. I mean, it's doable, it's not a problem, but I do prefer having that bit of flexibility to go, oh, I've seen this and I think this would be amazing for your wedding. Do you like it?
It's interesting timescales, isn't it? Because for me, I might book a ceremony with a couple for a year in advance or 2 years in advance. I don't think about writing it. I don't think about spending my major time with them until about a month before the wedding. So by which point, so we may well be in conversation, going back and forward and sending ideas and chatting and all of that kind of stuff. But then around about a month before, I spend my time with them, and they spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, with them, so that I then get to know where they are at that point. Whereas I know some people write their ceremonies, they do the booking, they have their chat, and then they write it then, and the wedding could be a year away. You kind of go, if you wrote for 2020, you'd be completely up the score, wouldn't you? I was very well contained then. I did not swear. I'm very impressed. Because this is going to be such a big part of everybody's ceremony that gets married this year or next year, unless they weren't planning to do anything at that. And it must be a similar thing to kind of go, well, actually, you don't know where you're going to be in a year's time, in 2 years' time. Things could have changed dramatically in terms of what you like and what you don't like, or you might have developed an allergy to something, or you might have completely changed the look. So the dress is a big thing. So, how far in advance are you going to do it? How far do you know? I find this completely interesting, but totally distracting, because I always want to see what everybody else is saying to join in. So Lottie's going, Lottie do. But I'm not quite sure what Lottie do means. You'll have to give us a bit more information on that one, Julie. Not quite sure. Not quite sure how to react to that one. But yeah, so to have things completely set early on is really tricky, because then you've got nowhere to go, have you?
No, definitely. I mean, quite often a couple just wants to get the date booked, and that's fine. Tell me that you want to get married on 4th of September. I've not got a booking. Fine, you can have that date. That's no problem. We'll have an initial chat, bit of backwards and forwards, and if you don't then want to talk until a month before, that's fine. I'm quite flexible. I mean, I have done weddings at 2 days' notice. I've done weddings at half an hour's notice. Last year, moved weddings quite spectacularly at quite short notice. So I guess having a background in theatre where if it's going to go wrong, it goes wrong, and you've got to fix it. You've got to fix it now with the contents of your pockets. You kind of get a bit more used to thinking on your feet and going, okay, my bride needs to move her wedding forward by 48 hours. I'll phone the wholesaler now, I'll speed everything up, and I'll work through the night. It's no problem.
We've got Hilary has joined us again, which is lovely. Hi, Hilary. It's great to see you. It's great tonight. We've got lots of people coming on, which is lovely. I like having comments and conversations. So just thinking back to my own wedding, because why not? See what you would have done with my flowers. No pressure at all. So I got married. I had 2 weddings. I had one in February and I had one in March. So the end of March. My dress was blue velvet.
Okay.
Long, flowing, down to the ground, with a train, of course. And my favourite flowers are daffodils and irises.
Okay, that's doable.
It kind of works, doesn't it? It does. Bizarrely and thankfully, my favourite flowers happen to be ones that were around at that time. But I do remember trying to force them to flower, because it was it was quite cold that year. So things were a little bit late coming into flower.
Yeah, I mean, there's always tips and tricks, and the longer you work as a florist, the more you know just how much you can abuse a flower before it gives up on you. I'm lucky in my shop. I've got a loo with a heater in it, and if I need to force things open, the light stays on, the heater's on the entire time I'm there, and I watch things like a hawk. And if things are opening quicker than I want them to, I move them to somewhere that's darker and cooler, and I'm very aware of how much water things have got. And I mean, there was a horrendous heat wave in 2018 where it was like 30 degrees every day. And I had a really lovely wedding, beautiful flowers the couple had ordered in sort of pale pinks, pale blues and creams, absolutely beautiful colour palette. And I knew that the flowers they wanted would not last in the heat. If I didn't get them, the day before their wedding. So I had got as far as I could, and then was like, right, this is the most nervous I think I've ever been doing a wedding, because I have literally got to get everything done in the next 24 hours. I can't do anything in advance, because I knew that they just willed.
So how long do you normally allow? I know this is a bit of one of those piece of string kind of comments or questions, because it depends on how much you're doing. But for a middle scale wedding, let's go for that. How much time do you have to allow for doing things?
It really depends on what the couple are having and their flower choices. I know that's a really, really naff answer.
Can't cop out now.
I know. I live by spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. I'm really quite an organised person, and I will have a list of what stems they're having or what I'm planning on having. And then when I place my order and I know exactly what's coming, then fantastic. And I will be planning what day I need everything arriving in my shop for it to be perfect on that Saturday morning or Friday or whenever it is you're getting married. So quite often, say you're getting married on a Saturday, some of my flowers will arrive in on the Wednesday, some on the Thursday, and then everything I know will be in peak condition, will have had a really good drink of water, and will be perfect for the Saturday. And I've also got that bit of time where if things aren't opening properly, or they're opening too fast, if they're opening too fast, I can replace. And if they're not opening quickly enough, I can work my magic to sort of persuade them a little bit.
Never with a hairdryer, I'm sure.
But never with a hairdryer. But, we've got lilies, I'll stick them in the loo with a banana.
Okay. Nothing you can say to that. I just wanted to bring up Joy's comments, which I thought was a really good idea. So she bought a cheap dress in a charity shop so that she knew that she had something, and then freed her up. And I think actually, in a lot of ways, it is that thing of being able to play around with things, to try things on, to go for things. I mean, again, I can remember when at the point that I went and tried dresses on, I only tried one day with my mum, but it was fascinating. Those things that I never thought in a million years I would try on or that I would wear. So a huge crinoline-y kind of one. I was amazed. I was amazed at how it made me feel and how petite I felt. How and how graceful. Yeah, it wasn't what I went for. It wouldn't have been what I went for. But I could understand at that point why people might make that choice. We've got a question coming in. Oh, carry on.
It's actually one of my favourite bits of a wedding consultation is where I send the party of the wedding that's not wearing the dress out. And I go, do you want to go and just grab a coffee or something for a few minutes? I need to see the dress. And I get to see the final dress, and sometimes I get to see the short list of 2 or 3, and to see how the bride is standing in my shop in front of me versus how she's standing when she's wearing the dress, and the difference in body language and the confidence of, and quite often I'll get asked, which one do you think? And I'll say, well, it's up to you to decide. They're both beautiful dresses, and if I've got a favourite, I will say. And quite often on the wedding day, I see the dress and I go, oh, you made the right decision.
And it's interesting, isn't it, that bride's body language changes when they're trying on the dress they really like.
Oh, completely.
Even if they're torn between several that are the same, or one that they think they're not so sure about. You can see so much in their body language, can't you?
Yeah, completely.
Right, I'm bringing up the question.
What are popular styles for weddings today? Teardrop bouquets have come back into fashion. So the nice long pointy, hold it with a nice handle, they've come back into fashion, where a couple of years ago everybody wanted a hand tie. People are more relaxed and they're more sort of happy to go with the flow. So it was all very, very samey. Everybody wanted the nice moundy roundy, very neat, very manicured bouquet. Then we sort of went through a phase where people were very experimental and wanted as big as a dustbin laden down to my knees, which I have done, and it looked really good. And now people are more sort of flexible on what they want, as long as it goes with the rest of their day. So if somebody comes in and they're like, I don't know what style I want, what would you recommend? I can figure that out from talking to them, from finding out that they've got a disability that means that they need to be able to put it down, that there's various things that come into play when you're thinking about your flowers. It's not just, I want it to be pretty. It's got to be practical, and it's got to work for you.
And the weight of some bouquets is extraordinary. So I always get to, my couples, I'm always there holding the bouquets while photographs are going on and doing all of that malarkey. And I can't get over the weight of some of them. And obviously the balance, they're quite, the weight is quite far forward, isn't it? Obviously to the flowering part of the bouquet, or where the mass is. But it's interesting how some sit more easily, some are easier to hold, and you can see it when they're then having the photos done as to where they're able to put their bouquet to make it look good, but also to feel relaxed and informal themselves.
So we actually give a little lesson about how to hold a bouquet when we deliver them on the morning, because if you hold it upside down or back to front, it's going to look awful no matter how hard you try. So we will give we've made your bouquet so that the pins are here, you put your thumbs on the pins and you want to hold your bouquet quite low down, depending on who you are, or depends on how rude I am with how I tell you where to hold it. But there's different ways, and there's different ways of putting them down to make sure that you always pick them up properly, or if you're handing it to somebody else or you need to throw it. I don't like it when people throw them, but if you're going to throw it, take the pins out or take this bit out before you throw it behind you, all of that sort of thing. So I do sort of say, look, if you're going to hold it in your photos, not up under your chin, down here, elongate your arms. The weight of the bouquet will give you those arm muscles you want in your photos. But you've got to be mindful that if different physiques on people will lend themselves better to different bouquets. If you're as tall and as broad-shouldered as me, I can carry something massive and it looks small. Whereas if I have something like Kate Middleton carried, would look ridiculous in my hands. Something neat and delicate and no.
So just had another, I think this is an impossible question, but we'll put it up there.
Well, as it's you that's asking, Annabelle, I have to say yours, of course.
I was wondering if she was a previous bride or a current one or a future one.
So I was her bridesmaid.
I've seen the photos then.
Yeah, it was a good wedding. It was an actual piss up in a brewery for the reception. It was amazing.
I too was going to piss up in a brewery, and I'm only saddened that I wasn't at that one as well.
It was the same brewery though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't have a favourite. I should have. Well, I can't have favourites. I love them all the same. Which sounds awful saying it, but because I get to meet so many people and get to be that magic little touch to so many people's weddings. Like, you could show me a picture and I'll go, oh, that was such and such a body's and it was there and it was on this day, and oh, do you remember it was when we were flooded, or it was this, or it was that, or it was the other. So obviously Annabelle, yours is special, but I don't really have a favourite because I love flowers. So why would I want to choose?
And certainly for me, I always find it's the one that I'm currently working on, or the latest one I've done. That is so part of my mind at that point in time that that is the special one at that moment in time.
Definitely. And as you go through the year and you're like, oh, it's spring, and oh my God, this is amazing because I'm working with this. And then you get into peony season and you're like, oh, peonies, aren't they amazing? And then you get further through the year and you're like, oh, I've got all the autumn shades and I've got this and I've got that. And you just get more excited because it's something that you've not done for a while, or it's a combination of flowers that you've not touched for ages, or somebody wants something a bit different and you go, oh, I love this, I love this, I love this. Or in Annabelle's case, just make it nice and bright and colourful and have some fun with it. Yeah, I can do that. It's great.
It must be nice to have complete freedom at times, because I'm sure you don't get it all the time. There's probably more people that have got a very strong image of what they want than people that kind of go.
I actually find complete freedom just as terrifying as when people have such a because how do I know that what's in your head is in what's in mine? So you might want something wild, but your idea of wild and my idea of wild might not be the same. So having that complete freedom is just scary.
But going back to Julie's question about the popular styles for weddings at the moment, where do these styles come from? Who decides what's in fashion and what's not in fashion on a given year? Because there does seem to be there are colours that are suddenly trends for the year, and I don't get my head around that, because obviously it doesn't affect me directly.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from fashion. So a lot of it will come from brides and bridesmaid dress makers. If they suddenly decide, you know what, we've not had green for a while, we'll make a load of green dresses, naturally that will be what brides buy. So that will be reflected then in what they choose for their weddings. It's also things like Rock and Roll Bride magazine, Guides for Brides, all of the magazines. If they feature something and they feature a lot of the same colour palette, or they feature something a bit different, you can guarantee that I'll be asked then, oh, I saw this amazing thing, could you? Yeah. You go through waves of things. I had a lot of Cadbury purple and white one year. Just happened to be what people wanted. I've had quite a few people wanted baby blue and white in the same year, but normally people choose what they like. So if you like red and lime green, have red and lime green. If your bridesmaids will only look good in navy, then choose something that sits well against it and choose something that you like, because it's your wedding, not anybody else's. So I did a wedding for Kenny and Ben, who are the loveliest guys you could possibly imagine meeting, and they wanted autumn. They wanted everything to be autumn. They didn't want any green. They didn't want flowers to begin with, they just wanted foliage. And I had to explain that by the time the photos had been done, they would end up just holding sticks, bridesmaids. By the time they'd wafted them around a bit, no matter what you do with autumn leaves, they're going to start falling off. And they ended up with the most incredible, rich mixture of burnt oranges and browns and reds. And it was just incredible. And it was because they came to me and they went, we want autumn. And yeah.
And was it in the autumn?
It was in November, so that was helpful. If they'd gone, we want autumn and spring, it would have been a bit more difficult. But it was so different and so perfect for them. They had 6 groomsmaids and a couple of little flower girls, and they had lovely buttonholes, and it was just so right that was what they'd chosen, and they let me have a bit of fun with it, which was lovely.
And Joy is saying, "Oh, perfect autumnal colours," which is very true. I remember seeing that bouquet as well. They're absolutely gorgeous flowers that you did for that one. Anyway, Kaz has come up with a lovely quote, which I think I might keep in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evening to you, Kaz. Very nice to see you. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It is that thing that actually it needs to be the what is current, what is on your mind at that point in time, or the one that's coming. So I hate it. It's a question that I hate being asked, and I have been asked a few times, kind of, what's the most outlandish wedding you've done, or the most extreme wedding you've done, or something like that. And actually, that doesn't really work for me, because that's then passing a judgment on that person's that couple's choice, or that their decisions about what they're wanting or what's special to them. And it's not about that. It's about if it matches them, if it's right for them. Absolutely fantastic. It's right for me then.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, sorry, I've just lost my place. I distracted myself entirely trying to work out what time it was, forgetting where the clock is, and thinking, oh my goodness, have I run out of time already? Don't worry, we're all right. We've got half an hour left yet, just under. So I was wondering, do people tend to go by colour choice or by flower choice, or is it a mixture of the two?
Mostly colour choice. Most of the time people come in and they go, we want this colour, what's available? And that's fine. Or people will come in and will go, my favourite flowers are, that's all I want. And that's fine as well. I mean, I've had occasions where a bride has come in and they've wanted all white, don't mind on the flowers, but my dad can't stand anything that's strongly scented. And then in the next breath go, but I really like old-fashioned garden roses, and I know that they smell really nice, and is there anything we can do? So with that particular bride, when I knew she was coming in for her second consultation, I got in some of the white garden roses I was hoping to use for her wedding, and I said, take one of these home, see how your dad does with it. And she took it home and she left it on the side of the kitchen in the area of the house he'd be in the most often. And she emailed me like 3 days later, and she went, we've got it past Dad, I can have the roses. And that was like one of the best emails to receive that year in terms of wedding flowers, because she could have what she wanted where she didn't think she could.
Mm.
So that was lovely. I mean, people that come and they go, can I have another couple of brides who won't mind me saying this story. One of my brides came in and wanted an extravagant, quite large bouquet, in her words, as big as a dustbin lid and down to my knees. And it had to have Lizzie Antherson because that was the first flower the groom had ever bought her. And because of that, and because she thought he'd remember, it had to be in the wedding bouquet. And bless him, he does remember. And he comes in and he always asks for them because he knows that there's that special link that they were the first flower he bought her, so they should be in the wedding bouquet.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's so cute.
Do you think that people's or awareness of what's available at what time of year is there? Or do people, because we're so used now, aren't we, I think, to being able to get anything at any time of year, is that difficult?
Yeah, because you can walk into a supermarket and buy sprouts most of the year and tomatoes year round and all that sort of thing. People expect the same with flowers, and it's just not the case. You know, spring flowers are only available in spring. Peonies, you've got a very limited time in when you can have them. I mean, there's some flowers that, yeah, you can have year round. And if you want them, you might have to pay a bit more for them, but I'll get them for you. But there are some things that do have a really short, really strict season. So if you want daffodils, you've got to get married in the spring. If you want peonies, you've got the sort of May, June window. If you go outside that time, you won't have them. And explaining that to people that have booked the August bank holiday weekend but want peonies, it's a bit like, I can't do peonies, but have you thought about, and it's finding different things that will give the same romantic, ruffly, ultra amazing look that aren't quite the same flowers. It's one of those things. But
it goes back to what you were saying at the start, is having those conversations about why things are important, why particular choices. So is it you like the look of it? Or is it actually it's got some significance? This is what, you know, my mother had in her bouquet, or this is, you know, and then to know how much flexibility you've got within that.
Yeah, definitely.
So with the overall, because flowers aren't just a bouquet, are they? These days, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be. I'm sure going back, they used to have the odd small round arrangement that was on the tables at meals, but it seems to be a bit of a bigger affair now in terms of the amount of flowers or the range of flowers. So does it start with the bouquet and then move into other stuff, or what comes first?
So when I have a consultation with people, I always start with the couple. So if you're having a bridal bouquet, that's the main event. If you're having extravagant buttonholes, you are the couple, you're in the photos, you should be what the focus of the attention is on. And then we work out from that. So we work out from, if you have a bridal party, you know, what do you want for them? Do you want something that's in a similar style to yours, or do you want to sort of tone it down? If you are having a really pastel bouquet and then your bridesmaids are all in pink, do you want to not have pink in their bouquets and have more of a different colour, just to sort of balance it all out so that you see it against the dresses? Then you sort of go, okay, church, venue, where are you getting married? What would you like there? Do you want anything? Because one of the things around here is that a lot of the venues are so beautiful, they don't need extra flowers. It's lovely when people do. Don't get me wrong, I love it when people go, oh, and of course we've got 17 tables in the marquee on the front lawn, and we've got this and we've got that. Great. But also, if you just want your bouquet, a buttonhole, and 2 bridesmaids because you're going to the registry office and then you're going out to the pub, why not? It's your day. You know, if you want the whole kit and caboodle, I'll do it. But if that's not you, don't put yourself through it. You know, if you want something, you get married at the church and you want a pedestal at the church and you want it taken to the reception venue, take it to the reception venue. Repurpose and reuse things as much as you can. On, you know, it's your day. If you're spending the money on it, get your use out of it. You're only in the church for an hour, take it and use it somewhere else.
Yeah, I hate seeing flowers left anywhere. You know, it's kind of like, no, they need to be where they're seen. They need to be welcomed. Part of everything that's going on. What's the biggest challenge that you've had? Because I know that you've succeeded in doing all of them, but what's been the most challenging design idea or thing to create, or kind of like that's really got you thinking, the juices going, about how to solve something that somebody's after?
There's been a few. There's been a few that have been interesting. I guess. I need to wear mine. So I did a 25th wedding anniversary vow renewal for an amazing couple. And the day before their wedding renewal, the ceiling collapsed in my shop. And there was flood water everywhere. Cue a lot of panic and me phoning her before it hit social media and said it happened and all of that sort of thing. But their design style was very, very specific. They wanted Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones. They wanted her colours of red and gold, no, his colours of red and gold and her colours of blue and silver to sort of fight and then come as one through all the flower designs.
Wow.
So things for him were more one colourway, things for her side of the bridal party were another way, and then the main event of her bouquet, it all had to sort of work together to form a unity. So that was an interesting, quite challenging in a way, because the colours were so different that they wanted to use, and the style was so different. And add a flood into it all. Why not?
Absolutely. And I think that might be the one that Annabelle's talking about. Is it the Game of Thrones bouquet? Yeah. Well, that is interesting, because I've done a similar thing with music and poetry, where we've had almost like a playoff between the groom's side and the bride's side. So the groom's side has been doing, so he was English, she was Welsh. She had Welsh music, Welsh poetry. He had English stuff. He had some Scottish stuff in there as well. And all of their guests were playing music or were reading poems and things. It was almost like there was a bit about, okay, this is my gift to you from my culture. This is my gift to you from my culture. And then it all got bound together, if you like, in a handclasp thing, which is just brilliant to see that personal, all of that personality coming through about the things that are important to them. And I think, oh gosh, I want to see the photos of that now. I'll put that. So if you can link me in to a photograph of that, I'll share it on my page as well, there, Lottie, because I think that would be great for us to be able to see the outcome of that. Oh, how wonderful.
Well, I know that bouquet is actually in a shadow box in their dining room. So they dried as much of it as could be dried, and it's now pride of place in their dining room.
So how much of a bouquet can be dried? Does that depend on the flowers, presumably?
Yeah, really depends on what's used. A lot of what they wanted was dried to begin with, a lot of the foliage. So it works, and it looks really cool. Really cool. I mean, I have done a couple of purely dried bouquets. I did one recently for B. Hers was all dried and still looks lovely on her dining table. So
having that something to keep after the ceremony, after that special day, is very meaningful, isn't it? It can be a beautiful thing to do. And I've seen some other things happening with flowers. There's different ways of preserving them in recent years. I'm sure there's a dipping one. I'm trying to remember what they're dipping. I have a feeling it was some kind of wax.
So I've got a friend who makes resin paperweights and things.
Yeah.
So she dries the flowers and creates beautiful, she makes beautiful jewellery with them, but she's also started making paperweights. So there's a lot of things that people are making all over the place, but you need to have done the research beforehand, because you can't just go, I got married on Saturday, now what do I do with it? You kind of have to have planned it in advance to know that whoever you want to send it to can do the work.
Yes, and not throw it, presumably.
Yeah, it does help.
I have to say, with some of the bouquets I've seen around recently, it seems to be quite a dangerous sport to be throwing them, because they're quite weighty. You're going to go, oh my goodness. People running away in the opposite direction to make sure they don't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
What is there? To my mind, in a garden, you get lots of different colours, lots of different flowers, and everything seems to go together. Are there colours that you find really difficult to get to work together? Obviously, the the Lord of Thrones, the Game of Thrones ones you were talking about.
Lord of Thrones too. Not really. Sometimes I might find it difficult when I have the initial inquiry and somebody goes, I want orange and teal, and I'll go, right, okay, orange and teal, how am I going to get this to work? But by the time I've had some time to think about it and to play, and if it's not a colour combination I normally use, so I don't tend to have that much orange in the shop because people don't ask for it. So if you want orange, I'll order things in and I'll get used to using them and I'll get used to seeing what they look good against. I mean, the thing with gardens and the reason they all look good is they're full of greenery. And greenery works to tie any colours together within reason. I mean, there's some things that you wouldn't quite put together, but they work. And if it's brought together by a stem of something in the middle, or because it's bound together with some different ribbon or hessian or whatever it happens to be, most colours eventually work with a bit of assistance.
Bit of pruning. Is it better to have a clear idea of what you want flowers-wise, or to have a clear idea of what your budget is?
Budget. Hands down. If you know, I've only got this much to spend, let your florist know. Because if we know we can help, and if we know we can signpost you towards things that will give you the look you're going for and be within your budget. If you come to us and you go, I want this and I want that and I want the other, and can I have a quote for this, and can you add this on, and can you do that? Yeah, of course I can put the quote together. But if you know you've only got however much to spend on it, it's far kinder for both of us to go, is it possible to do all of this? This is our budget. And I can say, right, well, your budget will do X, Y, Z on the list, but it's not going to do A, B, C. And then you've got it in writing as well, so that if you don't have the 17 bridesmaids, you cut it down to 3, and you suddenly have the money you would have spent on the dresses, you can go, oh, we weren't going to have that thing with the flowers, but actually we can afford it now. That's far better than if you come and you go, we want all of this, and I send you the quote, and then you go, oh, right. Because it then means that I'm disappointing you, and I'd rather make you happy. So if you come in and you go, this is what we like, this is our budget, is it doable? I can be honest with you and either say yes or no. And if it's a no, I will always follow that with, but have you thought and come up with a way of making what you want fit your budget? Or if it's not possible, I will be completely honest and go, no, it's not going to stretch far enough. There are things I can do, but although I can perform a little bit of magic, I'm not a miracle worker.
Good quote. Are there things that people think will make things cheaper, or make things the overall effect? Are there misconceptions on what people think will be will work for them? Yes,
without a shadow of a doubt. Everybody on the planet thinks that Gypsophilia is cheap. It's not. It really isn't. It's a beautiful flower. It makes everything soft and fluffy and really romantic. But everybody thinks it's cheap, and it's not. Just because you can get it from the petrol station, from Tesco's when you do your weekly shop, and you get a couple of sprigs and they dry out within a day, that's not the same standard that I'm buying. So you might think that because it looks really cute and really dainty, and it's like, oh, it's only the same flower, it's not cheap. And it's really difficult sometimes to explain that to people, that just because you think it is doesn't mean it is.
And do people have misconceptions on where the flowers come from as well, or the kind of time frames that you need to get things in?
Sometimes. I mean, some people must think I've got the most amazing back garden you could possibly ever imagine. Because, of course, I just go out there and I cut it down and it's free because it came off a tree. In reality, I buy some of it from the UK. I buy a lot from Holland. The way the wholesale and the flower markets work, things come from all over the world into Holland, and then come into the UK. So the flowers you want might be coming from Colombia, they might be coming from Kenya, they could be coming from Holland, they could be coming from, a lot of the eucalyptus comes from France and from Italy, you know, it could be coming from anywhere in the world because it's the best in the world, because it's the highest quality and it's going to last long enough and it's going to be beautiful for you. But sometimes there needs to be a little bit more legwork to get it here. Mm. And I'm always happy to put the legwork in and to figure out a way of doing it, but sometimes it does take a bit longer.
Hazel's just put a little comment up. Oh, wonderful. If you've got access to gardens, eh? It's absolutely brilliant then to be able to do something that then becomes very personal. I don't know whether that was then something that you put together, Hazel, or whether you involved a florist to actually pull the whole thing together, because I have seen you putting a wedding bouquet together. I've sat there and watched in absolute awe at how you make the fronts of the flower, the top of the flowers, go where you need them to be, and yeah, it just blows my mind to actually see it in, because it looks like it should be so easy. You're doing it there while you're talking to me, and I know it's not as straightforward as it maybe appears to actually get something that is going to have that. Is going to be able to survive what it's got to go through, because they have quite a tough time of it, really, don't they, wedding bouquets?
Yeah, I mean, they're out of water for hours and hours and hours, and they're carried around, they're put down, they're picked up, they're handed to somebody, grandchildren get them, you know, whoever it is that happens to pass your table, knocks on the floor, oh no, it's now got to look good in my photos. Right, the photographer wants me to put it on the whatever, or throw it to wherever, or do whatever with it. They withstand a heck of a lot on a wedding day, do the flowers. You know, you try and make them as robust as possible, but there's no way on earth that what is delivered to you 2 hours before your ceremony is what it's going to look like at the end of the night.
And Hazel's just filled us in that it was all done by friends, that they were on a very tight budget, which is it's looking at what your budget are and where you choose to spend your money. And I think that's not. Budgets seem to be so much bigger these days for weddings than they ever were at the point where I was looking at getting married. 25th wedding anniversary this year. Not that I'm dropping it into the conversation at all, but I don't think I'm going anywhere. not going to be celebrating in any which way at the moment. But certainly, we did everything for, including our honeymoon, for under £2,000, because that was all we had. Whereas, different. It seems to be. These days, I think the couples are saving for a lot longer, and they're paying for an awful lot more themselves, rather than the bride's family paying, which again was traditionally the way. So I think that's changed a lot. Where how much money people prepared.
Also gives the couple more say in what they actually have, because I mean, I sometimes get that Granny comes in and Granny's paying for the flowers, and I get the bride mouthing over the top of Granny's head, tell her it's this much, we'll pay the rest. And there's all of that sort of thing going on. And I mean, it's lovely when somebody does want to do that, or the groom's family wants to pay for the buttonholes. Yeah, go ahead. As long as I know that it's that wedding that you're paying for, then that's no problem. I did have a groom phone up on the day that the final balance was due to say, can I pay for this these wedding flowers? And I went, can I ask who you are? Because you've not told me your name. And he told me his name, and I was like, but she's coming to pay me. And he was like, I want to do it as a surprise. She thinks she's coming to do it, and coming to see you and coming to pay. But I want you to be able to just go, he's paid for it. And that was so sweet. And she walked into the shop and she said, right, you need to tell me how much, because I've got to transfer money from my accounts and this, that, and the other. And I went, no, your groom's paid for it. And she, her jaw hit the floor, where he'd been secretly saving because he wanted to treat her to her wedding flowers. And that's really nice when that happens too.
Quids in. He started off his married life in a good way, didn't he?
It sure did.
Joy's got a question for you.
Oh, the question.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask it, but Joy's asked it, so we'll bring it up.
I was so hoping to not have to talk about Brexit tonight. So Brexit currently is not having too big of an impact currently. Obviously, it's an ever-evolving situation, and there's more of an issue actually because of COVID. at the moment in the flower world, because obviously as different countries, regions, areas are going into lockdown, flower farmers aren't able to farm. So in 2020, when the whole world went into lockdown, that meant that 12 weeks after that, there was a shortage of chrysanthemums, there was a shortage of lilies, there was a shortage of everything. And I know that that's going to keep playing out into this year, because bulbs weren't planted at the right time, things weren't harvested at the right time, loads of flowers were destroyed because of it. And then you compound it with Brexit, where the transport delays are more of the issue. So getting the product to Britain is more of the issue currently. But we'll figure it out. You know, I've got excellent wholesalers who are keeping me incredibly well informed. They have a buying team in Holland. They have a team over here. I get weekly emails. At the moment, I'm getting daily WhatsApp messages giving me this is the state of play for tomorrow. This is the state of play for today. Expect a 6-hour delay, or expect to this, or we've managed to get on the ferry rather than driving. And they're being fantastic at keeping us up to date. I mean, things have changed. There's now a longer lead time on plants, and times are changing as to cut-off points for ordering for fresh flowers, because of the extra paperwork that's involved, because everything needs a phytosanitary passport, I think that's how it's said. And it's going to have a knock-on effect for quite a while, and that's without the cost implications of the fact that because all this extra paperwork is being done, because of the extra man hours, because of. But at least we left the deal. So that's a positive, apparently. Rather than being a giant stab in the dark of not knowing what's going to happen, things are sort of happening along the way we thought they would. But who knows? It's only the 19th of January. Anything could happen in 2021. You know, if you look at 2020, who knows?
I think that's what we learned from 2020, really, isn't it? That anything can happen. And probably the biggest, most helpful word you can come across is flexibility. So the more flexible we can all be in everything that we're doing, the more likely we are to be able to achieve part of what we want, or the whole of what we want.
And I am being flexible. All my couples that were meant to get married last year, apart from 3, have all moved to this year. Some of my weddings that were booked for this year have already moved. On Friday of last week, I had messages off a bride that was due to get married in April and one that was due to get married in May, both moving to September. And as long as I can, I will keep moving your bookings. We might have to renegotiate on price because things will change. You might not be able to have the same flowers because the difference between April and September, you know, all of that sort of thing. But yeah, you've booked me, I'll keep moving it. It's no problem.
It's that thing, isn't it? I think that's the magic of wedding supplies in a lot of ways. People really do bend over backwards and go out of their way to try and support their couples. We all feel very passionately about our couples, don't we? That we really want them to have the best possible day that they can have. Whatever it happens at the moment.
There was one day in the first lockdown that I probably spent the whole day in tears, because I had 4 brides contact me on the same day, all saying, we need to move our date. And I mean, I can only imagine how it must feel for somebody that's trying to plan a wedding through all of this. But I mean, it's not easy being a supplier either, because we're so emotionally invested in your day, and we want you to have the perfect day. So every time it changes, I mean, Claire and Richard managed to get married last year. They were meant to get married the 29th of March. We went into lockdown on the 23rd. Okay, it's being rearranged. They rearranged it till the 24th of October. We went into lockdown the 23rd of October, but they managed to bring it forward, and they managed to bring it forward from the 24th to the 23rd at 11 in the morning, and they had to be out of their venue by 6 o'clock. And you just go, you know what? I just want you to have a lovely wedding. So anything I can do, I will do. Whatever it is, I will make it happen. And it's taken an emotional toll. Like, I've got so many lovely people that have been in contact with me and that are in contact with me at the moment, and I know that it's taking me longer to reply. Normally, I'm very, very quick to respond, and I'm quick to get things back to you, and it's fantastic and it's engaging. But at the moment, because I've got people that have already been booked in for possibly, I mean, some of these couples 2 years already, I've got to deal with their booking before I take another one on. And so juggling all of that, and juggling replying and all of that, it's not straightforward. But it's
Life's not straightforward at the moment, I don't think. So we're coming up to, in theory, we're on our last 30 seconds, but I haven't asked you the final kind of question, which is always really, if you could give one piece of advice to couples as they're starting their wedding planning journey, what would it be?
I would remind you that it's your day. It is not anybody else's day. It's not your mum's day. It's not Great Aunt Mavis's day. It's your day. If you want to do something, then do it. If you want a certain colour scheme, if you want a certain location, then make it happen. It's your day and it should be right for you. Brilliant.
And on that note, I think that probably wraps it up pretty well. 1 hour and 13 seconds. That's pretty darn good, I think. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lottie, for being my guest this evening and spending time chatting to me. I don't know if I'm any better on in being able to put a bouquet together myself. Probably not. I'll have to come into the shop when we can for a lesson on that one. It would be great, wouldn't it? I can't wait. And thank you to the people. We've had loyal people with us, I think, all the way through. We've had more people on this one than any of the others, which is great. I think that probably means that Lottie's a bigger draw than I am. But there we go. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been great to have the questions and the comments coming through. It makes it really interesting. It's your day. Do you? It is your day. Yeah. Kalisha's just written, it is your day. Do you?
Yeah, do you? You do you, not anybody else.
Oh, do you? I'm with you. Blimey. Obviously, I need to go and have my tea. Thank you so much to everybody that's been with us this evening. It's been great. By all means, share this. It'll be live and ready to share in. I think it comes out within about 5 minutes. With anybody, do. If you want to ask us any questions at all, please do. We'll, if it comes to me, I'll pass it on to Lottie and I'll get her to answer you at some point when she's dealt with the couples that are currently at the top of the list. Been lovely to be with you all. Oh, what a great evening. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lottie, for being here.
Thank you, Jane.